out the door here. All right,
Oh,
everybody. Yeah, that was quick. That was
yeah.
quicker than we're normally used to. It's actually done that two
Yeah.
weeks in a row now. But we're back a day late and a dollar short, as some people might say. Apologies for the Monday Night Rewind being on a Tuesday this week. Blame your host, Daniel Kuhn, not your host, Jacob Berkemeier. Of course, that's us. You figure that out by now. But I was extreme. I wasn't even home last night, so we couldn't do the show last night. But we're here tonight. Second to last show of the season, which is crazy to think because it feels like we just started up again this year, two days ago. But here we are, down to it, Jacob. We're into the state championship games, and if I recall correctly, last year we had a lot to talk about because we had a
Yeah.
lot of teams. This year has not quite gone the same for our TriState football teams.
Yeah. We had
But
Kentucky in the mix last year
yeah,
too, a little
yeah.
bit. Maybe one Indiana team. I can't remember if East Central or Lawrenceburg made it last year, but this year we were down to two, and they're the Division One and Division Two state qualifiers, I guess. Anderson will be taking on Avon this week, and St. X will be taking on Olentangy Orange this week.
Is
So,
that how you say it? Olatanji. I never get it
you
right.
know, I don't know. I really, truthfully don't know, but
I apparently
that's
can't
what I'm
spell
going
it
with.
either. I apparently
Yeah,
can't spell it either. I better get onto that before Friday night. But yes, it's a little bit different this year, at least in terms of the schools that we have, teams that we have left. But I think the main takeaway I have from this, Jacob, we kind of sit here all year and talk about, well, Anderson primarily from the ECC, but we talk about the GCL South schools at the time. And listen, I'm not dogging on any of our other schools or conferences, but here we are in the state championship weekend, and who's left? I mean, we talked
Anderson,
about it. Yeah,
GCL school. You know, and
yeah,
it was
yeah,
the take your pick by week 10 out of
yeah.
GCL schools too. It
Yeah.
was like Elder looked dominant, X beat Elder and Moeller. I mean, there's been
Moeller
so
beat
much.
X in the regular
Yeah,
season. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just classic GCL South.
right.
But here we are, just a few days down. Well, I guess Anderson plays Thursday night, so a couple of days before the
Mhm.
Raptors take the field. Hopefully, it doesn't snow like it did last night here,
Yeah.
and doesn't snow like it did for the Anderson Raptors last year because I think they will enjoy the snow-free skies in terms of their passing offense if that holds off this year, unlike last year. Well, anyways, I think
Right.
we'll just get right to it. On the same note, Jacob's going to talk a little bit about Anderson and Big Walnut from last Friday night. So you take it away, Jacob.
Yeah, absolutely. So Anderson ended up sneaking out with a 29-22 win over Big Walnut. And, huge win for them. They really did not establish a run game at all, but it didn't matter because they're the Anderson Raptors and they can throw the ball with the best of any team. Uh, and they got out to a 13-0 lead, but you got to credit Big Walnut because they were able to, keep fighting back. So it's 13-0 at the end of the first quarter, 23-8. Anderson was up at the end of the second quarter. And then there was no scores during the third quarter. And then Big Walnut was able to score to make it a 1-point or one possession game, 8-point game. But then Anderson and Jordan Davis were able to get a 5-yard touchdown run, go up 2 scores with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. So even though that Big Walnut scored with 1:40 left, Anderson was able to kind of control that last final possession, kneel the ball out, and get the win. And I mean, what more can we say about Owen Scalf as a quarterback at Anderson? Because he's been so good for them all year and what they ask him to do. I mean, 52 passing attempts, 38 completions. It's a really good percentage. I don't care if you're throwing bubble screens, halfback screens, outside receiver screens. If that's a part of their offense, completing those passes can be challenging at times. And, they also know how to open it up and throw the vertical passing game as well. Cooper Kathman had 11 receptions, 118 yards, 1 touchdown. Jordan Davis, 11 for 48, no touchdowns, but kind of crazy stat line there. You very rarely see a receiver have 11 receptions for 48 yards, even though he is the running back.
Yeah.
He is a running back. But so that's kind of what I'm talking about with the extension of the screen game, where Jordan Davis only had 11 carries for 20 yards, but then you add in another 11 receptions and 48 yards. And I think, you look at those passes sometimes and you're like, oh, that's an easy completion. There's a lot of things that can go wrong on that type of a play. To be as good as Anderson is at working that lateral passing game, they're just really good, and it's a huge part of their offense. Tegan Jalek also added on 6 for 54. And then Braden Moore, 5 for 48 and a touchdown. So just a really balanced attack. You got to love how Owen Scalf is able to just spread the ball around, hit all of his receivers and playmakers, and then kind of get into the defensive side of things. That's really was the X factor in this game. Antoine Higgins had 1 pick for a 40-yard return, and then Braden Black also added on another interception. So you win the turnover battle, even though Owen Scalf threw, 1 pick. You still win the turnover battle 2-1. Yeah, and that comes up huge in a state semi game where you need to win on those types of margins. And congratulations to your cousin. He was also leading tackler again this week. He has been an absolute menace all year. Had a couple passes deflected as well, but then also Gerard Lindsay, 9 total tackles, a pass deflected. And then as a team, their defense had 3 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss, able to kind of get those, guys behind the chains a little bit. And also, just want to congratulate Big Walnut on a great season too. I think we get to this time and, we kind of focus on all these Cincinnati teams, but it's also like Big Walnut had an amazing season to get to the point that they were at. And they met the buzzsaw that we call the Anderson, Raptors. But, they're in a rematch this upcoming week with Avon. And we talked about this a little on the show. So anyone from Cincinnati, please just be grateful for the conference stats and standing updates that you get. Because I was scouring the web trying to find stats on Avon and stuff. The only thing I could find was their record, but actual player stats and stuff, unable to find anything, box scores. So be appreciative that we're from around here, and this stat keepers, do a good job with all that stuff. But Anderson and Avon played last year, and that was a game where Anderson got disrupted by the weather a little bit. I'm pretty sure that game was snowy, rainy.
It was.
Bad
it was
conditions.
Snowing the whole time.
And and Anderson, what they love to do. They love to throw the ball, and if you're passing 52 times in snow and rain, that sucks. There's no way to get around it. It's hard to, kind of complete those passes, even if they're gimmies or easy ones. Sometimes the ball just doesn't come out right or hits the receiver's hands wrong. So good weather would be very beneficial for Anderson for this upcoming game. And I just think they're going to come out with a huge chip on their shoulder. I mean, how often do you see the same 2 teams make it back to the state finals in back-to-back years? I mean, and it would be an awesome story for them too, to get their revenge kind of. And, even though they didn't get the job done last year, they can come in this year and, take care of business, get a win, get that state championship, and really solidify everything that Evan Dreyer's done over these last 5 to 10 years over there. I mean, he's built an amazing program up at Anderson, and, he's obviously gotten a lot of buy-in from his players as well. So you just hope that it, comes full circle and they're able to beat the team that beat them last year, who Avon slowed down their offense, but I really think more of it had to do with weather and environmental circumstances versus actual gameplay issues,
I think, for starters, I think, we weren't there, so I can't say, we can't say for certain it was just the weather, but you could probably take a solid guess that had something to do with it last year. I think Jacobs, got it down to a T here. I mean, listen, knowing the Anderson Raptors the way I do, and then that can be from a professional level or a personal level, but we'll stick with professional. Um, they're very motivated. I think that the motivation is one of the biggest keys to this. They felt like last year was maybe their year, didn't work out, lost to this Avon team. Here we are 1 year later. They're back at it again. You keep in remember, Anderson was undefeated last year going into the state final too. I'm pretty sure. I don't think they lost, right? So this will be
Yeah.
2 years in a row. They're gone undefeated and gotten all the way here, and they're facing off against the Avon. I believe they're the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just there's got to be, like you said, that chip on their shoulder. I think the big key for Anderson in this game, obviously not knowing Avon very well, I think they need to shut down the run from Avon. I think if a team can get the run game going against their defense, which is obviously proven to be very hard this year, but if you can get the run game going, you can kind of keep the ball out of Owen Scout's hands and kind of control the game from the clock perspective. I think Anderson needs to make sure they shut down any opportunity for the opposing team to do that. I think they'll be perfectly fine. I think that they've got maybe the best offense in the state at this point, or at least one of them. I guess we can't really compare to Division II stuff or Division I stuff. I mean, but they've just been so incredible this year, and my hats are off to them, Evan Dreyer, everybody at that school. And I'll point out one other thing really quickly. We talk a lot about, obviously a lot about everything when it comes to Anderson because they've been so good. Keep in mind, Owen Scouse a junior, so him passing as much as he does at as a high volume as he does, while being as efficient as he is, even at he's an upperclassman, but he's not a senior, right? So it's really, really impressive to see how poised he is in the pocket, how well he is at putting together running that offense from a passing game perspective. But just don't forget about their receivers. I think that they've got one of the deepest receiver rooms in the whole, and I've seen in a long time. I mean, you talked about him, Cooper Cathman, Tyson Weaver, all those guys have been really, really good for the Raptors this year. So excited to see what happens on Thursday night. Sorry.
Well, and the crazy thing, what you mentioned with the receiver room, Kathman, Tegan Jalek, and Tyson Weaver are all juniors as well.
Yeah.
So, and Jordan Davis, their running back, wide receiver. So you're talking about, try to build all this positive momentum that you've had, finish this job off, get the state championship, and then you're looking on to next year like, wow, we have four of our best playmakers on offense returning and our quarterback as well. So definitely a lot to be excited about over in Anderson. The game's this Thursday. If you're looking to tune in, Spectrum will have it streaming and OHSAA. But we will not be covering it. Daniel will actually be, Greg
will be there on
the
Thursday night.
But then Daniel will be there for it's a nice segue into our next game, the St. X and Olentangy Orange game.
Yes.
And kind of what happened with St. X last week as well against Middletown.
Well, it's surprising. I think I talked a lot about it on the show this year. I spent a lot of time covering Kentucky schools over my course of my tenured employment here at TriState Football, but I've covered exclusively Ohio teams this playoff season, and primarily Anderson and St. X, and here we are. They're both in the state finals. Maybe I'm a good luck charm. I don't know. I'm kidding. My point is, actually, I want to address two things. Number one, Jacob pointed out that we're very lucky with how the websites and the box scores and the conference sites are set up. I apologize to Kentucky and whoever runs their website. I take it back. Trying to figure out Columbus and Cleveland team stuff is difficult, but nonetheless, please ignore my sweatshirt. I forgot the Bengals are playing the Bills on Sunday. My fiance is a humongous Bills fan. I also like the Bills, but not this weekend. Didn't even think about what I put it on. So everyone just ignore the sweatshirt. I'm still a Bengals fan. Anyways, back to high school football. First of all, I will be traveling to Canton on Friday to go cover the Olentangy, however you say it. I'm going to get it right eventually. That game on Friday night, I'm really pumped up, excited to bring that content to all of our followers and viewers. But to the game from this past weekend, X in Middletown, so two of our Tri-State Football area teams it was an interesting matchup, I think, to say the least. We talked about last week it kind of seeming like it was going to be a little bit of a defensive battle. I think you look at the final score, 21-6, X over Middletown. It strikes you as a defensive-ish battle. I mean, it was only 14. It was 14-6 at halftime, right? So there only one more score the entire rest of the game. Let's just talk really quick about what happened. Middletown actually took an early lead. The Middies got a couple of turnovers from St. X, took advantage of those, got some field goals. I think they would have wanted to have touchdowns, but that X defense is just so stout. They settled for the 3 points. They end up with an early lead. And then I think X's next drive after their turnover, the first drive they had that was a scoring drive, they just went right down the field. And I'll give you a guess as who they ran their offense through, Jacob. Maybe you could guess it.
Yeah. I would assume Vollmer. But
yes, it was Daniel.
I'm going to know the information. Yeah,
yeah, I'm getting there in a second. Daniel Kuhn has been, I think, the spark plug for that offense throughout the entire playoffs and really the back half of the season. Right, we've talked about it on the show a lot. But they scored. They kind of took care of business in terms of Middletown. I think we talked about it. I talked about it last week. Middletown's offense was just kind of. I don't want to call them. I don't want to say anything out of line, but they just felt like they maybe were a little bit underpowered than maybe the St. X offense was from a perspective of just having just that genuine drivability of the football. Feels like Ace Cooper's kind of been their spark plug. I talked about Vollmer being X's. Middletown struggled to throw the ball. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, I just de-aged 5 years. Middletown struggled to throw the ball. JoJo Ward 9 of 19 for 118 yards. So not terrible in terms of just production, but they couldn't find that big play they were looking for. They were looking for it all night. They had a lot of close calls. They had quite a few plays that were like jump balls that they just couldn't come down with. They were outgained in total yards 217 to 153 by the Bombers. I think the real difference in this game was just the I don't know. It's looking at the box score; it's so similar. It kind of boiled down to who had the better defense, and I think St. X was able to prove it once again. They have one of the best defenses in the state. Kobe Clapper, of course, was all over the place, as was Aiden Reeder, who we don't talk a lot about when it comes to the X defense. He had 10 tackles and 2 sacks. 5 of those tackles were for loss. So big night for Aiden Reeder. It comes down to it. I think X was just the better team that night. Nothing against Middletown. They had an incredible season. I think that there is absolutely no shame in getting to that point. Like we talked about, that was a kind of out of the blue. We didn't expect it. I don't think a lot of people expected it. I think it's absolutely a season the Middies can build off of and build that program up to being consistently in the state Final Four and it's consistently deep in the state playoffs. So really, really great job for the Middies this year. And St. X, man, they get Olatanji Orange this coming Friday night. And they're going to be out. And if you don't know this already, I guess this is breaking news. I'm assuming, I haven't read anything, but knowing what I know from my own eyes, they're probably going to be without Daniel Vollmer for this game. And he went down late in the first quarter, early second quarter, right around in that time frame. I didn't catch it because he never went down. He came off the field, I'm assuming. So there wasn't a stoppage in play, so I didn't notice. Yeah. But I noticed him at some point in the second quarter on the bench, getting his his upper leg kind of calf area looked at. And he went at halftime. He came out of the locker room on crutches and in a boot. So I think it's safe to say Vollmer won't be playing on Friday night, which I think is a huge bummer for the Bombers. He's been really, really good for them, especially he plays both ways. He's a very good linebacker as well, but offensively,
I think his value's been so much more on offense. Even if him in college, he's probably going to be much more valuable on defense. Be a defensive guy for sure.
Yeah.
But what he's been able to do for the St. X offense has been awesome throughout the whole playoffs and kind of the later half of the season. He just gave the offense that physicality and a guy who can make guys miss and, break a play for a long gain, or just be the physical bruiser that you need to just wear down a defense throughout the game. And, at this point, I am done doubting St. X.
No, 100%. Yeah.
They've proved me wrong a couple times this year. I am sure Steve Speck has a plan, and
Yeah.
their offensive coordinator, Coach Klotz, I'm sure he has a plan too. And really, this might just have to be, Jackson Fry. He might have to just step up and kind of do what he did against Elder, where it was like he kind of just kept moving the chains, finding his receivers, hitting the open guys, and Logan Von Holly in that game had 3 touchdowns. I mean, their pass
He was
game
quiet
is,
on.
I
He was
I
quiet
saw,
Friday.
one for 8.
Yeah.
But Cam Taylor went 5 for 79.
He was the big target. There was one drive they hit Cam Taylor, I think, 4 straight times. It just felt like they really couldn't, like the Bomber offense, once Vollmer went down, because that drive, I think he was only in for that one drive when he scored, maybe 2. But when he was in there, it was night and day. And listen, I think the Bombers, like you said, Steve Speck has been here before. He's one of the most tenured coaches in the state, and of course in Cincinnati for a reason. He's as well respected as he is, as for a reason. I think he'll have the offense ready to go. In terms of Jackson Fry, was it Fry or Frey? Fry.
Yeah.
Jackson Fry.
Yeah,
if anyone hasn't figured out after 2 years of us doing this show, I'm not good with names. Anywho, I think for him, obviously Logan Von Holly, Cam Taylor, they've got good weapons on the outside. They can definitely get it done during the passing game. I think he needs to clean up a little bit of I don't want to call it sloppy, but he had a few plays on Friday against Middletown. It's like just rush throws. I think, a little bit of pressure. He got kind of a little bit sped up and threw a couple interceptions. If he cleans that up, he'll be fine. He's got a great arm. He plays the position very well. But I just want to, I don't want to harp on it, but I want to point out to everybody, I want to explain how big of an impact that Vollmer had on this offense. And let's just talk about the playoffs. Week 1 against East, week 2 against Moeller, 3 against Elder. I mean, he averaged over 5 yards a carry in those games, scored, I think, a total of, that would be 6 times, right? So, you're talking about a big-time player, and to lose him, and I think at this point in the season, that's really disappointing. But, listen, they're going to be fine. I think they're going to put up a great fight. I'm really excited to do this. I guess a personal fact, I've never been to Canton, so you better believe I'm going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame on Saturday morning after the game. But right. But I think for St. X, stepping up and Vollmer's offense has got to be, or Vollmer's absence has got to be. They've really leaned on Spencer Stregbauer. I think that's how you say his name. Yeah, Spencer Stegbauer in the running game, and then he doesn't. The numbers don't pop off the chart from the other night. But Jake Britt was kind of their running back going in at the beginning of the season before Vollmer kind of took over. He's really, I think he's still very solid. So just keep an eye on that name come Friday night. And then finally, my one last piece of information, I was able to find something about the Olentangy Orange Pioneers. One thing. If you're going to watch the game on Spectrum on Friday night, or keep up with us on TriState Football's Twitter account, just be aware that Olentangy's featuring one of the best quarterbacks in the state in Levi Davis. He's up for Mr. Ohio Mr. Football in Ohio. This year, he has gone 134 of 198. That's 67% of his passes for 2,016 yards, 15 touchdowns. But he's also rushed for almost 1,000 yards, 935 on 126 carries with 15 touchdowns. Yeah. And he's committed to Ohio University. So just keep an eye out on him. I think that the Bomber defense will be able to keep him in a little bit of check because they're just that good. But it'll be an exciting matchup. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think that was going to be my last point as well. I think even without Vollmer, you still have 3 really, really huge pieces on that defense. And you saw it, Aiden Reeder and Kobe Clapper both stepped up big time. Both 10 tackles, multiple tackles for loss, sacks, forced fumble recovery. It's like if X can just play a clean game, not turn the ball over, their defense will force turnovers and will force punts and will slow that quarterback down. I do have faith in their defense to do that. They've been able to do it all year, whether it's against Ponatowski, whether it's against, Elder's offense or any of these other teams. They've done a great job shutting stuff down, and I have a feeling they'll try to take away what Orange kind of wants to do with their offense. And again, with Middletown too, just want to give a shout out to their head coach, Collie Jones. Unbelievable job turning their program around and just getting them to a state, semi game. What I think he's been there for 3 years. It's like
sounds right.
Middletown for the last 10 to 15, I feel like really hasn't had that type of success. And yes, them being in the Region 2 instead of Region 4, that can be seen as an advantage for sure.
But it does. I mean, Region 4 is difficult.
But at the end of the day, you still got to get through that entire region to get there. So it's like I think they can have sustained success in that region, and they just have to keep building on what they've had this year and get a couple more playmakers on offense, with the way their defense has looked, I think that they can definitely continue the run that they've kind of been on.
I think one last quick thing before we move on to really pretty much the end of the show.
Yeah, signing off.
Only 2 teams we have up. We'll shout out Kentucky, of course, but one of the things I want to just really quickly bring up about Middletown is just from the naked eye, the size disparity between St. X and Middletown was large, was a wide gap. And I don't let that final score fool you. I mean, it wasn't a blowout, but they only scored 6 points. They kind of got not boat raced, but they it wasn't a close game. Listen, I tell you what, it was a valiant effort from the Middies. They played hard, they played tough, they played clean. They're a very well coached football team, and like we both said, I think their coach Jones has really set that program up for success here in the future.
That's a different level of buy-in than what they've had in the past.
Absolutely.
I think, and especially I know from when I was, in high school playing them, you didn't see that level of buy-in, and that's why they were around the same spot we were when I was in high school, the bottom of the GMC. So it's like,
well, I went to Moeller. We were at the bottom of the GCL, so apparently not much more buy-in than I had either.
right. So it's like, things change and you get some new people in there, and it can work out. So congratulations to Middletown on a great year. And we're kind of going to roll in and congratulate the few Kentucky teams that made it as far as they did, but unfortunately none of them were able to prevail.
It stinks because, last year I think we had 3 teams in the final state championships for Kentucky. Of note, Ryle and Beechwood were so close to making it back. I feel for the Raiders in that senior class. They did a really, really good job for Ryle. Excuse me. I'm going to start losing my voice. We're only 30 minutes in, Jacob. That's pretty crazy. But they've done such an incredible job. They lost to South Warren 36-20. We talked about it last week. South Warren, I believe, it's a team that's undefeated, right? Yep, they're undefeated. So that was a really tough opponent to match up with. They played them close. They played them hard. They have nothing to hang their heads over. Obviously, a disappointment not to make it back to the state championship game, but definitely shout out to them. Beechwood's, it's kind of me and Jacob are both like, wow, Beechwood lost. That's not something you hear very often.
That surprised me
class.
For sure.
Yeah, that class 2A. But Owensboro Catholic, I guess, shout out to them. They've had a great season. I don't know much about them, but I think Beechwood will definitely bounce back next year. And then finally, Lloyd Memorial. What an incredible season the Juggernauts had. 13-1. I know that they probably wanted that perfect season in that state championship, at least the chance to win, go undefeated and win the state championship. But just an incredible season for them down there. I didn't know. Here's how I kind of view it. Right, I've obviously growing up had heard of Highlands and Beechwood and Covcath, and never in my life before I started doing this job I had ever heard of Lloyd Memorial High School. So that just goes to show you how good of a job. I got it. Hold on. I know their coach's name. You got to give me a second. Kyle, it's Niederman, I think. Coach Niederman. Just what an incredible job that he's done with that program, and definitely something they can build off of as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And not every year you can win either. That's the unfortunate part. Last year we got blessed with having 5 total teams. If there was 3 Kentucky, 2 Ohio, it's just like,
and I think
can't
all 5
expect
of them
that.
lost. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe
Hopefully we'll go 2 for 2 this year.
Yeah.
To respond from going 0 for 5 last year.
Yeah, it was a disappointing weekend last year, to say the least. But I have the utmost confidence in both the Bombers and the Raptors. I think they're going to play great football, and it's absolutely going to be some can't miss action. The high drama of the state championship, always worth tuning into, whether you have Spectrum or can find it a different way. But well, I think goes without saying. We talked about it briefly last week at the beginning of the top of the show. We will be back next week. It will be on Monday instead of Tuesday this coming week.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna come up with a little something fun, or special is the right word, but something a little different. Highlight some of the best. Some of the things we want to talk about the most across the entire tri-state from the whole season, and we look forward to that. And once again, of course, as always, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. Thank you for being patient and waiting till Tuesday, because I'm such a busy boy. You can tell we're at the end of the season on this, because I'm going off the rails here. Apologies, but of course, as always, you can check out all of TriStateFootball.com's content at that amazing new website for this year. Catch our show on all major podcast platforms, your Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts. You get the gist. And then, of course, social media. Check out the Twitter account on Friday night. I will be live tweeting. So if you can't catch the game on TV but want to keep up with all the action, just go on over to our Twitter account there. And then check out the radio show if you can. I believe Jacob's going to be on doing that is that Friday?
Yes. So it'll be Greg and Dan for the pregame show, and then Safwan and I for the postgame show.
Oh my gosh, Safwan and you're doing it with something. You're doing a show with somebody else. I'm so heartbroken. I'm just kidding.
I know.
I'm sure.
I apologize.
Maybe they'll let me do some radio next year.
Greg just had to go. To the
he's got to go to the crosstown shootout. Yeah, right. Yeah, man.
I understand.
Let's talk about that really quick. That's going to be there's no way that's a good game, right?
Oh no, that's 2 fan bases that are very frustrated with where the state of their programs are at right now.
At least X has got at least Patino's in his first year. Wes Miller's been there 10 years at this point, and still hasn't been tournament.
As a UC alum, I'll hold my tongue on that one. But
fair enough, man. Well, of course, as always, thanks everybody for tuning in, listening, watching, however you consume or however you get this podcast. And we will see you again next week for our end of year recap show. Have a great evening. Thank you, everybody. Good night.